The medical ship Hippocrates moved slowly through space near the planet. Kepler 442, its white hull showed the red cross, symbol that meant healing and help to every living being in the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge watching the stars. She felt proud of her crew and their work. The ship was full of patients from 3 different worlds. Human colonists lay in beds next to tall blue Zephyrians who had escaped their burning cities. Even some wounded Kelith soldiers were getting treatment, even though their people had been fighting the humans just days before. The medical bay did not care about politics or war. Everyone who needed help got help. Dr. Marcus Webb walked between the beds in the main medical room. His hands were gentle as he checked on a small Zephyrian child. The little girl had burns on her arms from the attack on her homeworld. Her big purple eyes looked up at him with trust. She could not speak his language, but she knew he was trying to help her. "How is she doing?" asked Nurse Kim as she brought fresh bandages. "Better," Dr. Webb said with a smile. "The new skin will grow back in a few weeks. She will be running around again soon." The Hippocrates followed all the rules of the Galactic Medical Treaty. This treaty said that medical ships could never carry weapons. They could never take part in fights. All races had signed this treaty 200 years ago. It was sacred law. Even the cruelest species in space respected hospital ships. Captain Chen got a message on her screen. 3 ships were coming toward them. She was not worried. The Hippocrates sent out signals on all radio bands saying they were a medical ship. Any ships that came close would know they were healers, not fighters. "Captain," said Officer Torres from his station, "the ships are getting closer. They are not answering our calls." Chen looked at the radar screen. The 3 ships were big. Much bigger than the Hippocrates. "Keep trying to call them," she said. "Tell them we are a medical ship under galactic protection." In the medical bay, Dr. Webb was teaching a young human doctor how to treat Kelith wounds. The Kelith had green blood that clotted differently than human blood. "Have to be very gentle," he explained. "Your skin heals fast, but only if you do not damage it more." The young doctor nodded and practiced the technique. Around them, patients from 3 worlds rested and healed together. It was beautiful to see. This was what medicine was supposed to be about, helping everyone no matter where they came from. Suddenly, the ship shook hard. Captain Chen grabbed her chair to stay standing. Red lights started flashing everywhere. "What was that?" she shouted. "Captain!" Officer Torres yelled. 3 Vrex battleships just appeared. They came out of nowhere. Chen felt her blood turn cold. The Vrex were known across the galaxy for their cruelty. They were tall, gray beings with no feelings for others. They thought being kind was weak. They believed only the strong should live. "Send the medical protection signal," Chen ordered. "Full power on all bands. Tell them we are protected by galactic law."
"Actor Clactor!
The Hippocrates sent out every signal they had.
Actor!"
The Red Cross symbol lit up brighter on their hull. Their computers broadcast the medical treaty in every known language. Surely the Vrex would respect the ancient laws. Another massive hit shook the ship. This time the lights went out for a few seconds. When they came back on, alarms were screaming everywhere. "Direct hit to Section 7, Torres reported. "That is where the children's ward is." In the medical bay, Dr. Webb heard the explosions. Patients started screaming in fear. The little Zephyrian girl reached out for him with tears in her big eyes. He picked her up and held her close. "It will be okay," he whispered, even though he was not sure that was true. Captain Chen opened a communication channel to the Vrex ships. The face that appeared on her screen was cold and gray. The Vrex commander had small, dark eyes that showed no feeling at all. "This is Captain Chen of the medical ship Hippocrates," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We are protected. Under the Galactic Medical Treaty, we have patients on board from many worlds. Stop your attack immediately." The Vrex commander tilted his head like he was thinking about something funny. "Medical ship," he said in a voice like grinding metal. "You humans are so weak. You think your little treaties will save you." "We have children on this ship," Chen shouted. "Wounded children who did nothing wrong. Weakness is a disease." The commander said, "We are the cure." The communication cut off. A moment later, the biggest explosion yet rocked the Hippocrates. The hull broke open in 3 places. Air and people were sucked out into space. Dr. Webb watched in horror as one of his nurses was pulled toward a hole in the wall. He grabbed her hand just in time, but he could not save everyone. The small Zephyrian girl was torn from his arms and pulled into the darkness of space. Her purple eyes looked at him one last time before she disappeared forever. Dr. Webb fell to his knees and screamed. Round him, medical equipment floated in 0 gravity. The beautiful medical bay, where people from different worlds had healed together, was now a tomb. More explosions came. The Hippocrates was dying. Captain Chen knew they had only minutes left. She reached under her command chair and pulled out a small device. It was not a distress beacon. It was something else. Something secret that she hoped she would never have to use. She pressed the button and sent a special signal toward Earth. The signal was encrypted and hidden. Only one person on Earth would know what it meant. Only one person would know what to do next. As Vrex soldiers boarded the broken medical ship, Captain Chen whispered a prayer. Not for herself, but for the galaxy. The Vrex had just made the biggest mistake in their species' history. They had attacked humanity's healers. Soon, they would learn what that really meant. Dr. Elena Vasquez was drinking coffee in her office when the special alarm went off. She had been waiting 20 years for this sound, but she had hoped it would never come. The alarm meant someone had attacked a human medical ship. It meant the sacred laws of healing had been broken. Her office was in Geneva, Switzerland, in a building that looked normal from the outside. Most people thought it was just another medical research center. They did not know what really happened. In the deep underground levels, they did not know about Project Asclepius. Alina ran to the elevator and pressed her hand on a hidden scanner. The elevator went down much further than any normal building would go. Down to levels that did not exist. On any map, down to where humanity kept its darkest secret. The underground facility was huge. Scientists in white coats worked at computers and lab tables, but these were not normal medical researchers. These people studied death as much as they studied life. They knew that sometimes to save innocent people, you had to be willing to hurt those who would not stop hurting others. Dr. Vasquez called Dr. James Park as she entered the main control room. We got the signal from the Hippocrates. Captain Chen activated Protocol 7 before the ship was destroyed. Elena felt sick. Protocol 7 meant the medical ship had been attacked without mercy. It meant patients and doctors had been killed while trying to heal people. How many survivors? She asked. Very few, Park said quietly. The Vrex took some prisoners, including Dr. Webb, but most of the patients and crew are dead. Lena closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about all the good people who had died just for trying to help others. When she opened her eyes again, they were hard as steel. Get me a direct line to the High Command, she said. It's time to show them what Project Asclepius really does. 30 minutes later, Alina stood in a secure video conference with the most powerful people on Earth. General Morrison, Admiral Chen, President Santos, and Director Kim all looked at her from their screens. They knew about Project Asclepius, but they had never seen it in action. Ladies and gentlemen, Alina began, for 200 years, humanity has been the galaxy's doctors. We have healed every species we have met. We have saved millions of lives from dozens of different worlds. But every time we saved someone, we learned something too. She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room, showed a 3-dimensional map of a Vrex body. Every organ, every blood vessel, every nerve was shown in perfect detail. We know how every alien species works, Elena continued. We know their blood, their bones, their brains. We know what makes them sick and what makes them well. We know their DNA better than they know it themselves. General Morrison leaned forward. Are you saying what I think you are saying? Yes, Elena replied. We have been building the most complete biological warfare database in the galaxy. Not to attack, but to defend. We hoped we would never need to use it. But the Vrex have forced our hand. She pressed another button. The hologram changed to show microscopic organisms. Tiny bacteria and viruses that looked harmless but were anything but harmless. These are targeted biological agents, Elena explained. Each one is designed to affect only one species. A weapon that can hurt Vurex will not. Even tickle a human or a Zephyrian. Can be very, very specific about who gets sick and who stays healthy. Admiral Chen spoke up. How specific can you be? Lena smiled. But it was not a kind smile. We can target individuals based on their personal DNA. We can make weapons that only hurt people who have committed certain crimes. We can even change how their brains work, if we want to. The room was quiet for a long moment. Everyone understood what this meant. Humanity had not just become good at healing. They had become good at the opposite of healing, too. They had learned to fight biological wars that no one else even knew were possible. The Vrex think we are weak because we care about healing, Alina said. They think mercy is a sign that we cannot fight. They are about to learn how wrong they are. President Santos cleared her throat. What exactly are you asking for permission to do? I want to deploy the biological response protocol, Alina answered. We will not kill them all. That would be too simple. Instead, we will show them what real power looks like. We will change them. We will make them understand what they have done. Deep in the facility, teams of scientists were already working. They pulled files on every Vrex they had ever treated in human hospitals. Blood samples that had been saved. Tissue samples that had been stored. DNA records that had been kept for medical research. Dr. Sarah Kim looked at her computer screen. It showed the genetic profile of every Vrex commander in their military. Information that had been collected over decades from wounded soldiers who had been healed in human medical facilities. I never thought we would actually use this data for war, she said to her assistant. Neither did I, her assistant replied. But they chose to attack a hospital ship. They chose to kill doctors and patients. Now they get to learn what happens when you hurt humanity's healers. The scientists work through the night. They designed biological agents that were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Not simple diseases that would kill quickly. Something much more sophisticated. Something that would teach the Vrex a lesson they would never forget. Elena stood in the main lab. Watching her team work, each person there was brilliant. Each person there had spent years learning how to save lives. Now they were using that same knowledge to end a war before it could spread to other innocent worlds. How long until the first batch is ready? She asked. 6 hours for the basic agents, Dr. Park replied. 12 hours for the specialized versions. 24 hours for the really creative ones. Alina nodded. The Vrex had attacked the Hippocrates less than a day ago. Soon, they would discover that attacking human medical ships was the worst mistake their species had ever made. She walked to her office and sent a message to the Terran fleet. Not orders to attack with guns and missiles, orders to prepare for a very different kind of war. A war where the weapons were invisible. A war where the doctors became the soldiers. The Vrex thought they understood power. They thought strength meant being cruel. They thought winning meant hurting others. Humanity was about to teach them a new definition of strength. They were about to learn that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who know exactly how your body works. Admiral Hassan stood on the bridge of the Terran ship Mercy's Edge as they entered Vrex space. Behind him flew 12 other ships, but they were not warships. They were medical supply vessels, research ships, and diplomatic transports. To anyone watching, it looked like Earth was sending help, not revenge. Sir, said Commander Torres, we are getting signals from Vrex patrol ships. They want to know why we are here. Tell them we come in peace, Hassan replied. Tell them we want to negotiate for our prisoners under galactic law. Hassan looked calm, but inside he was angry. He had read the reports from the Hippocrates. He had seen the pictures of the destroyed medical bay. He had counted the names of the dead doctors and nurses. He was here to make sure the Vrex paid for what they had done, but not with guns or bombs, yet with something much more clever. On the Vrex flagship Dark Conquest, Commander Zex looked at the human ships with disgust. The ships were white and clean, with medical symbols painted on their sides. They looked weak and helpless. Humans, he said to his second-in-command, always trying to talk when they should fight, always trying to heal when they should kill. His second-in-command nodded. Should we destroy them like we destroyed their hospital ship? Zex thought for a moment. No. Let them come close. Let them beg for their people back. It will be fun to watch them cry. The human diplomatic ship moved slowly toward the Vrex flagship. It sent signals asking for a meeting to discuss prisoner exchange. The Vrex agreed, thinking it would be entertaining to see humans beg. Dr. Webb sat in a cold cell on the Vrex ship. His hands were chained, but his mind was still working. Hidden under his skin was a tiny device that the Vrex had not found. It let him talk to Earth without making any sound. This is Webb, he whispered quietly. Can see the Vrex command center. From my cell, they have about 50 officers here. Most of them look tired. They have been eating their emergency rations for 3 days. The air system is recycling every 6 hours. Far away on Earth, Dr. Vasquez listened to every word. Each detail that Webb gave her was important. She was learning about the Vrex ships, daily routines. She was learning about their habits. She was learning the best way to deliver her special gift. Good work, Marcus, she said into her communicator. Keep watching. Tell me everything you see. The diplomatic shuttle from the Mercies. Edge docked with the Vrex flagship. 3 humans in formal clothes walked out. They carried briefcases and looked nervous. The Vrex guards laughed at them. We request a meeting with your commander, said the lead diplomat, Ambassador Miller. We wish to exchange medical supplies for our prisoners. The Vrex guards led them through the ship toward the command center. As they walked, tiny invisible particles came out of the humans' clothes and briefcases. The particles were so small that no one could see them. They floated in the air like dust. The particles were Dr. Vasquez's creation. They were biological agents designed just for Vrex bodies, but they were not active yet. They would stay harmless. Until they received a special signal, Commander Zex met the humans in his command room. Around him stood his best officers. All of them were the ones who had planned the attack on the Hippocrates. All of them had celebrated when the medical ship burned. So, Zex said with a cruel smile, the weak humans come to beg for their people. Ambassador. Miller stayed calm. We offer a fair trade. Medical supplies that your people need for the safe return of our doctors and crew. Zex laughed. Your doctors are already dead. Killed them for sport. But we kept one alive for you to see. Pressed. A button, and Dr. Webb was dragged into the room. The doctor looked hurt and tired, but his eyes were still bright. He looked at the human diplomats and gave them a tiny nod. As you can see, Zex continued, your healer still lives. But not for long. Ambassador Miller's face stayed calm, but inside he was recording every word. Every Vrex officer in the room was being identified. Their faces were being matched with files back on Earth. We ask for mercy, Miller said. Dr. Webb has saved many lives. He has helped people from every species. Mercy is weakness, Zex replied. Watch what we do to weakness, without warning. Zex pulled out a weapon and shot Dr. Webb in the chest. The doctor fell to the ground, blood spreading across his medical uniform. The other human diplomats shouted in horror, but Dr. Webb was not dead. The weapon had been set to wound, not kill. Zex wanted the humans to watch their friend suffer slowly. Take your friend, Zex said with pleasure. Take him back to your ships, and remember this moment. Remember what happens when you are weak. Diplomats carefully picked up Dr. Webb and carried him back to their shuttle. As they left, more invisible particles spread through the Vrex ship. The particles attached to every surface and mixed with the air supply. Back on the Mercy's edge, Dr. Webb was rushed to the medical bay. His wound was not as bad as it looked. The human doctors worked quickly to save him. Did you get everything? Admiral Hassan asked, as Dr. Webb was being treated. Webb nodded weakly. He counted their numbers. I watched their routines. I saw which ones were the leaders. They have no idea what is coming. Hassan smiled grimly. Dr. Vasquez, are you listening? Through the communicator came Elena's voice. I am here. The biological agents are in place throughout their ship. All Vrex personnel have been exposed. We have DNA samples from their blood and saliva. We are ready to activate. What is the weapon? Hassan asked. Not a weapon, Alina replied. A lesson. We are going to teach them what real power looks like. We are going to show them what happens when healers become angry. On the Vrex ship, Commander Zex was celebrating. He had shown the humans how weak they were. He had proven that strength meant being cruel. His officers were laughing and drinking. Their victory drinks, none of them noticed that they were breathing in billions of tiny organisms. None of them realized that their own bodies were being studied and cataloged by invisible biological machines. None of them understood that they had just made themselves targets of the most advanced biological warfare system in the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez sat in her lab on Earth, watching data stream in from the Vrex ship. Every Vrex on board was now tagged. Every officer had been identified. Every war criminal had been marked. Begin Phase 2, she said to her team. The real attack was about to begin, and the Vrex would never see it coming. Commander Zex felt good as he walked back to his private quarters on the Dark Conquest. He had shown those weak humans what real strength looked like. He had made them watch their precious doctor bleed. Tomorrow, he would execute the healer completely. Just to send another message, he poured himself a victory drink and sat at his desk to write his report. The Vrex High Command would be pleased. They would promote him for destroying the human medical ship. They would give him medals for showing no mercy to healers. But as he started typing, something felt wrong. His fingers were not moving the way they should. They felt slow and clumsy. He tried to pick up his drink, but his hand shook and the liquid spilled across his desk. What is happening to me? He said out loud. On Earth, Dr. Vasquez watched data flow across her computer screens. Sensors and the invisible particles were sending back information about every Vrex on the enemy ship. Their heart rates, their brain activity, their blood chemistry. Everything was being measured and recorded. Activation is complete, she announced to her team. All targets are now infected with their personalized biological agents. Dr. Park looked at his screen. Commander, Zex is showing the first symptoms. Motor control degradation is beginning right on schedule. Vasquez nodded. Good. He was the one who shot Dr. Webb. His punishment should fit his crime. The biological agent inside Zex was very special. It was designed to attack the nerves that controlled fine motor skills. The same skills needed to aim a weapon. The same skills needed to hurt defenseless people. Over the next few days, Zex would lose the ability to hold anything steady. He would never be able to fire a gun accurately. Again, in another part of the Vrex ship, Captain Drek was having his own problems. He had been the one who ordered the attack on the children's medical ward. Now he was seeing things that were not there. Who are you? He shouted at the empty air in his quarters. Why are you looking at me like that? But there was no one there. The biological agent in his brain was creating hallucinations. Specifically, hallucinations of every child who had died when his ships attacked the Hippocrates. The little Zephyrian girl with purple eyes stood in the corner of his room, staring at him with sadness. You are not real, Drax said, but his voice was shaking. You are dead. I killed you. The hallucination of the child did not go away. More appeared. Human children, Zephyrian children, even young Keleth, who had been patients on the medical ship. All of them looked at Captain Drac with the same sad, questioning eyes. Dr. Vasquez had designed this agent carefully. Drac would see the faces of his victims for the rest of his life. He would never have another peaceful moment. He would always remember what he had done to innocent children in the command center of the Dark Conquest. Admiral Corks was trying to understand what was happening. To his crew, reports were coming in from all over the ship. Officers were getting sick. Some could not move their hands properly. Others were seeing things that were not there. A few were acting very strangely, like they suddenly cared about things they had never cared about before. A medical officer, Corks shouted. Get to the command center now, Dr. Vex. The ship's medical officer arrived a few minutes later. But he was walking slowly, and his face looked confused. Sir, Dr. Vex said, I have been examining the crew. This is not any disease, I know. It seems to affect each person differently. Admiral Corks grabbed the medical officer by the shoulders. Find out what is wrong and fix it. But Dr. Vex was having his own problems. The biological agent inside him was different from the others. Dr. Vasquez had given him something special, something that was changing the way his brain worked. For the first time in his life, Dr. Vex was feeling empathy, was starting to care about the pain of others. The emotion was new and confusing for a Vrex. Their species had evolved without the ability to feel sorry for others. But now, Dr. Vex was beginning to understand what his victims had felt when he hurt them. "Sir," Dr. Vex said quietly, "maybe we deserved this. Maybe we should not have attacked that medical ship." Admiral Cork stared at his medical officer in shock. "What did you just say?" "I said maybe we were wrong," Dr. Vex repeated. "Those doctors were trying to help people. We killed them for no good reason." Corks could not believe what he was hearing. No Vrex had ever talked like this before. It was impossible for their species to feel guilt or regret. On Earth, Dr. Vasquez smiled as she watched the reports come in. The empathy virus was working perfectly. On Dr. Vex, she had designed it to activate the dormant parts of the Vrex brain that could feel compassion, parts that evolution had turned off millions of years ago. "How is Admiral Corks doing?" she asked Dr. Park. Park checked his screen. "His agent is more complex. It will take longer to work. But when it does, the effect will be very strong." Admiral Corks was the one who had given the order to attack the Hippocrates. He was the one who had said that medical ships were fair targets. For him, Dr. Vasquez had created something very special. The biological agent inside Corks was slowly changing his brain chemistry, but not to make him feel empathy. Instead, it was making him experience fear. Real, deep fear for the first time in his life. Vrex were naturally fearless. They did not understand what it felt like to be afraid or helpless. But now, Corks was starting to feel exactly what his victims had felt when his ships appeared out of nowhere to attack them. His hands started shaking. His heart began beating faster. When he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he saw something that terrified him. He saw himself as weak and vulnerable. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. To himself, "I am Vrex. I do not feel fear." Yet the fear was growing stronger every minute. Soon he would understand exactly what it felt like to be a helpless patient in a medical ship. Watching death approach with no way to fight back, Dr. Webb, now recovering on the human ship, received a secure message from Dr. Vasquez. The message told him everything that was happening to his former captors. "They are getting exactly what they deserve," he said to Admiral Hassan. "Each punishment fits their specific crimes." Hassan nodded. "How long until the effects become permanent?" 72 hours, Webb replied. "After that, the changes to their brains and bodies will be irreversible. They will spend the rest of their lives dealing with the consequences of what they did." The Vrex had thought they were strong because they could hurt others without feeling bad about it. They had thought they were powerful because they did not care about suffering. Now they were learning that true strength came from protecting others, not hurting them. They were discovering that real power meant healing, not destroying. And the lesson was just beginning. 3 weeks after the attack on the Hippocrates, the Vrex Empire was falling apart. It's not from explosions or battles, but from something much stranger. The Vrex military could no longer function because their soldiers and officers had been changed. Admiral Cork sat in his command chair, but his hands would not stop shaking. The fear that had started as a small feeling was now overwhelming. Every time he tried to give an order to attack someone, his body filled with terror. He could not understand what was happening to him. "Sir," said Captain Drek, walking into the command center. But Drek looked different too. His eyes were red from crying. He had not slept in days because every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of the children he had killed. "The fleet is requesting orders," Drek said quietly. "But I do not think I can give orders to hurt anyone anymore." Cork stared at his captain. This was not how Verks were supposed to talk. They were supposed to be strong and cruel. They were supposed to enjoy making others suffer. "What is wrong with us?" Corks whispered. Dr. Vex entered the room, carrying a medical scanner. His movements were gentle and careful. Nothing like the rough way Vrex usually acted. "I have been studying. What happened to us?" he said. "The humans did something to our bodies and minds. They changed us at the genetic level. Can you fix it?" Quarks asked hopefully. Dr. Vex shook his head. This is not damage that can be repaired. This is evolution. They made us into something different. Something better. Quarks did not understand. Better. We are weak now. We cannot fight. We cannot kill. No, Dr. Vex said softly. We can still fight. But now we only want to fight to protect others, not to hurt them. We can still be strong. But now our strength comes from helping, not from destroying. Across the Vrex Empire, the same thing was happening on every military ship. Soldiers who had once enjoyed battle now felt sick when they thought about hurting innocent people. Officers who had been proud of their cruelty now spent their days trying to figure out how to help their victims. The biological agents had spread from ship to ship through normal contact. Every Vrex in the military was now infected. Every single one had been changed. On Earth, Dr. Vasquez stood before the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to hear her speak. They wanted to understand what humanity had done to the Vrex. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, 3 weeks ago, the Vrex attacked one of our medical ships. They killed doctors, nurses, and patients. They violated the most sacred laws in the galaxy. The alien representatives listened carefully. Many of them had been afraid of the Vrex for years. They wanted to know how humanity had defeated them so completely. We did not respond with violence, Dr. Vasquez continued. We responded with medicine. We used our knowledge of biology to cure the Vrex of their cruelest behaviors. A tall blue Zephyrian delegate stood up. Are you saying you changed their minds? You made them into different people? We activated parts of their brains that evolution had turned off, Vasquez explained. We gave them the ability to feel empathy, compassion, and fear. We made them capable of understanding the pain they cause others. But that means you changed. Their entire species, shouted a Kelith representative. Yes, Vasquez said calmly. We did. And we would do it again to any species that attacks our healers. The room was silent for a long moment. Everyone was trying to understand what this meant. Dr. Webb, now fully recovered, stood up next to Dr. Vasquez. The Vrex are not gone, he said. They are still the same people. But now they can only find happiness in helping others instead of hurting them. What happens to their empire? Asked another delegate. Watch and see, Vasquez replied. On the former Vrex flagship Dark Conquest, something amazing was happening. The ship had been converted into a mobile hospital. The weapons had been removed and replaced with medical equipment. The Vrex crew was learning how to treat patients instead of creating them. Commander Zex, whose hands still shook from the biological agent, was carefully feeding a young human child who had been injured in a mining accident. His damaged motor skills made the work slow and difficult, but he did not give up. I am sorry, he whispered to the child. I am sorry for all the people I hurt before. The child, too young to understand politics or war, just smiled at him and reached up to touch his gray face. Captain Drock was working in the children's ward. Every day he took care of young patients from different worlds. The hallucinations of the children he had killed were still there, but now they smiled at him instead of looking sad. They were proud of the good work he was doing. Dr. Vex had become the ship's head of medicine. His new ability to feel empathy made him an excellent doctor. He could understand exactly how his patients felt, and he worked tirelessly to make them comfortable. We should have been healers from the beginning, he told his assistant. This feels so much better than fighting. It's all across the former Vrex. Empire military ships were being converted to hospitals, schools, and research vessels. The Vrex discovered that helping others gave them a kind of joy they had never experienced before. Dr. Vasquez watched reports of the transformation with satisfaction. But she also sent a message to every government in the galaxy. This is what happens when you attack human medical ships, she announced. We will heal anyone who asks for help. We will protect any who needs shelter. We'll teach medicine to all who wish to learn. But we will also remember every patient we treat. We will study every species we encounter. We will catalog every genetic code we discover. We are doctors first, she continued. But we are human doctors. We understand that sometimes the greatest mercy is preventing cruelty itself. The message was clear. humanity would continue to heal and help. But they would also be ready to change anyone who tried to stop them from doing good. In the depths of space, new human medical ships continued their work. The Red Cross symbol on their hulls still meant healing and hope to those who needed help. But now, the galaxy knew these ships carried something else too. They carried the power to remake entire species. They carried the ability to turn the cruel into the kind. They carried weapons that could defeat enemies by making them into friends. Virex now worked alongside humans in the medical ships, grateful for the chance to heal instead of hurt. They had learned that true strength came from protecting life, not destroying it, and across the galaxy, other species that might have considered attacking human healers thought twice. They had seen what happened to the Virex. They had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not destruction, but transformation. The age of medical warfare had begun. And humanity, the galaxy's healers, had shown everyone what that really meant.